بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
The ninth virtue the Shaykh mentioned here is that entire Ummah will never gather upon misguidance, ijma. A coherent virtue is that when the beginning and the ending generation of this Ummah is on goodness, they can never gather entirely on deviation or misguidance. There is a possibility that rightly guided followers of Sunnah can increase or decrease depending on the time, place, and circumstances. But this is impossible that the entire Muslim Ummah wakes upon the path of misguidance. Now, Shaykh brings ahadith. The first hadith the Shaykh brings is from Sunan Tirmidhi. And this hadith, before I narrate it, this hadith has been reported by several other chains. And parts of the above narration are also supported by various authentic ahadith which are recorded even by Imam Bukhari in his Sahih, Imam Muslim in his Sahih, which have a similar meaning as the hadith which is mentioned by the Shaykh. You can look at Misbah al-Zujaja, Mu'jam al-Kabir, Majma' al-Zawaid, Mustadrak Hakim, Maqasid al-Hasna, Ibn Majah and all. Now, what is the hadith? The hadith is narrated by the Shaykh mentions this hadith from Tirmidhi, Mustadrak Hakim, and Shaykh Albani declared this hadith Sahih as in Sahih al-Jami. And what is the hadith? The Prophet ﷺ said, إن الله لا يجمع أمتي أو قال أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم على ضلالة ويد الله مع الجماعة ومن شذ إلى النار أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet ﷺ says that indeed Allah will not gather my ummah, or he said Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam upon deviation, and Allah's hand is over the Jama'ah, and whoever deviates, he deviates to the fire. There is another hadith which was reported by Imam Dawud in his Sunan, Ibn Abi Asim rahmatullah in Kitab al-Sunnah, and Shaykh Albani classed this hadith as Sahih in the Sahihah, Silsilatu Hadith Sahihah. The hadith was narrated by a famous companion Abu Malik al-Ashari radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Inna Allah أجاركم من ثلاث قلال ألا يدعو عليكم نبيكم فتهلكوا جميعا وألا يظهر أهل الباطل على أهل الحق وألا تجتمعوا على ضلالة أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, Allah has protected you from three things. First, your Prophet should not invoke a curse on you, because what will happen? If he invokes a curse on you, you will all perish. The second, those who follow what is false, the people of misguidance, should not prevail over those who follow the truth upon the people of haq. And the third thing is that you should not all agree, or you should not all, get coincide on an, in an error. You will, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected this ummah to agree on an error, to agree on misguidance. Now, what is the meaning of this hadith? It is impossible, Shaykh comments, it is impossible that the entire ummah can gather upon misguidance, whether that is in the form of disbelief, polytheism, disobedience, innovation. The people of truth will always be present in this ummah. Though they might be present in small groups, yet they will be strongly holding the concepts of monotheism, belief, and following the Prophet ﷺ. They will never be short of propagating the truth. They will be outstanding among all the people. This might be possible that people of falsehood may squeeze governance, political authority, and other mediums from them, but it's impossible for them to stop the people of truth from proclaiming the kalima and propagating the teachings of Islam. And Shaykh brings two ahadith to support this. The first hadith was reported by Imam Ahmad in his Musnad, and Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim also narrated this. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, and Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah radiyallahu ta'ala reported this, لا يزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرين حتى يأتيهم أمر الله وهم ظاهرون. كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a group of my followers will remain predominant, victorious till Allah's order, yani the hour, comes upon them while they are still predominant. There is another hadith which was reported by Imam Ahmad in his Musnad, Imam Dawud in his Sunan, Imam Hakim in his Mustadrak, and Shaykh Albani declared this hadith to be Sahih, the Sahihah. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, which was reported by Imran ibn Hussein radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, لا تزال طائفة من أمتي يقاتلون على الحق ظاهرين على من نواق من نواهم حتى يقاتلوا آخرهم المسيح الدجال. Dajjal, or kama qala Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, a section of my community will continue to fight for the right and overcome their opponents till the last of them fights with the Antichrist, Dajjal. And Imam Ahmad rahmatullah alayhi narrated this hadith with this extra wording that the Prophet Isa alayhi salatu wasalam will descend in this group. This means ijma. Now many people don't understand what ijma means. Now let us have a brief understanding of ijma. Now what do you actually mean by ijma? And are there any evidences in the Quran and Sunnah regarding ijma? Now first thing that you need to understand that the sources of Islam on which all beliefs, principles and rulings are based, are represented by the two revelations, the Quran and the Sunnah. Now, what are the other two evidences? Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi writes in a Risala, no view is binding unless it is based on the book of Allah or the Sunnah of its Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everything other than them should be based on them. From this two, Imam Shafi writes, from these two sources, the scholars derive other principles on which rulings may be based. Some scholars call them the sources of Sharia, Adillah, or the sources of Islamic legislation. They are Ijma and Qiyas. Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi comments, no one has any right whatsoever to say that something is halal or haram except on the basis of knowledge, and the basis of knowledge is a text in the Quran, Sunnah, Ijma or Qiyas. Adillah arba, the four evidences. Quran, Sunnah, Ijma and Qiyas. So Ijma is a source of Islamic legislation. Shaykhul Islam, Allama Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayhi writes in Majmu' al-Fatawa, if we say Quran, Sunnah and Ijma, they all stem from the same source because the messenger agrees with everything that is in the Quran and the Ummah is unanimously agreed upon it in general. There is no one among the believers who does not believe it is obligatory to follow the book. And everything that the Prophet ﷺ enjoined in his Sunnah, the Quran obliged us to follow it. So the believers are unanimously agreed upon that, and everything on which the Muslims are unanimously agreed can only be true and in accordance with what is in the Quran and Sunnah. Now, this was mentioned by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayhi. Now, let us try to understand, are there any evidences in the Quran and Sunnah that actually proves the hujjiyah of the ijma? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah An-Nisa, ayat number, 115, وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِغْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمَ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. And whoever contradicts, opposes the messenger after the right path has been shown clearly to him, and follows other than the believers' way, غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, we shall keep him in the path that he has chosen and burn him in hell. What an evil destination. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us from hellfire. Ameen. Allama Ibn Kathir rahmatullah alayhi writes, now listen to this very carefully. وَقَوْلُهُ وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ الْهُدَى وَمَنْ سَلَكَ غَيْرَ طَرِيقِ الشَّرِيعَةِ الَّتِي جَاءَ بِهَا الرَّسُولُ صلى الله عليه وسلم فصار في شق وشر في الشق وذلك عن أمن منه بعدما ظهر له الحق وتبين له واتضح له. وقوله ويتبع غير سبيل المؤمنين هذا ملازم للصفة الأولى، ولكن قد تكون المخالفة للنص الشرعي وقد تكون لما أجمعت عليه الأمة المحمدية فيما علم اتفاقهم عليه تحقيقا، فإنها قد زمنت لهم الإثمة في اجتماعهم من القطاع تشريفا لهم وتعظيما لنبيهم صلى الله عليه وسلم. وقد وردت في ذلك أحاديث صحيحة كثيرة قد ذكرنا منها طرفا ثالثا في كتاب أحاديث الوصول. ومن العلماء من ادعى تواتر معناها والذي أول عليه الشافعي رحمه الله في الاحتجاج على كون الإجماع حجة تحرم مخالفة هذه الآية الكريمة بعد الترويج والفكر الطويل، وهو من أحسان الاستنباطات وأقوامها، وإن كان بعضهم قد اشتكل ذلك واستبعد الدلالة منها على ذلك. And his words, Imam Al-Kathir rahmatullah alayhi says this in Tafsir Ibn Kathir, and his words, whoever contradicts the messenger after the right path has been shown clearly to him, means whoever follows something else than the Sharia which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with. So he's on one side and the Islamic law is on another side, the one who is opposing the messenger. And this is done purposefully by him after he becomes acquainted with the truth. It becomes clear to him and becomes clarified for him. I mean, speaking about the innovator. And his words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's word, and follows other than the believer's way. This is a necessity for the first description. However, the contradiction could be with the text of the legislator and it could be with the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has agreed upon in that which is known that they in reality has agreed upon it because they have verily been granted protection from mistakes in what they agree upon as an honor for them and to uplift the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, he is actually saying that غير سبيل المؤمنين. Now, let me just complete the translation. Many correct ahadith have been narrated regarding this, and we have verily mentioned a good portion of this in the book Ahadith Ulusul. This is the book of Ibn Kathir. And among the scholars are those who profess the frequency of the meaning, and that which Shafi Rahmatullah alayhi depended on it, proving that ijma is hujjah, which it is forbidden to oppose, is this noble verse. After reflecting and thinking long about it, and it is from the best of derivation and the strongest of them, even though some of them regarded this as dubious and eliminated using it as evidence due to this. However, now this, according to Ibn Kathir Rahmatullah alayhi, Imam Shah, now summarizing it for you, Ibn Kathir Rahmatullah alayhi says that Imam Shafi Rahmatullah alayhi used this verse to derive the hujjah of ijma, and he says that it is the best of derivations and the strongest of them. Ibn Hazm Rahmatullah alayhi writes in the tafsir of the same ayah that whoever goes against it, against what? Against ijma, after coming to know of it or after proof has been established on the basis of consensus, is deserving of the warning mentioned in the verse, meaning he shall go into the hellfire. Imam Qurtubi rahmatullah alayhi writes in his tafsir, الثانية قال العلماء في قوله تعالى ومن يشاقر دليل على صحة القول بالإجماع. Imam Qurtubi says, the scholars said regarding this word, regarding this ayah, that this ayah is an evidence for the soundness, for the hujjiyah of the opinion of the ijma. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayhi has a very lengthy commentary on this. We shall skip this due to the shortage of time. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayhi has a very, you can say, beautiful commentary on this. But one thing that I would like to say here, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayhi said that this ijma, am I audible or not? Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayhi has a very lengthy commentary. But one thing that I would like to mention from Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah is that there are two categories of ijma, ijma' khati and ijma' zanni. As far as ijma' khati is concerned, it is like decisive consensus, which is what is known in the religion by necessity. I mean, like the ijma regarding the obligation of performing the 5 daily prayers, the prohibition of consuming alcohol, khamr, and the likes, example, and so on. So whoever denies and disbelieves in this ijma' qat'i is a disbeliever, and he is out of the fold of Islam. The second category is ijma' zanni, which incorporates the rulings of Islam that were transmitted to us by a small number of scholars to extrapolation and deduction. And there is a very weak scholarly difference of opinion regarding the fiqh, the judicial authority of this category of ijma' zanni. However, you need to understand that the majority of the scholars hold that it carries a judicial authority, and that denying it is a clear mistake, but it will not be considered an act of disbelief. Now, this is a difference between ijma' khati and ijma' zanni. And there are many ahadith. Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu states, ahadith we have already mentioned. We have seen a verse from the Quran. Ahadith were mentioned by Shaykh. And there is another hadith which was mentioned by Imam Ibn Abi Asim rahmatullah in Kitab al-Sunnah. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Inna Allah qad ajara ummati an tajtami'a ala dhalalati." Kama qala Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah has really protected my ummah from uniting upon misguidance. Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu says, and this is mentioned by Imam Ibn Abi Shayba in Musannaf and Imam Bayhaqi in Sunan al-Kubra and Imam Nasa'i in Sunan al-Mujtaba. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that the Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala, not the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu sent a letter to Qadi Shurayh, and in that letter he said, judge with what is in the book of Allah, and if you don't find anything, then that which is in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and if you don't find in Quran and Sunnah, then that which the righteous who came before you have judged. Or he said that then that which the people have agreed upon, referring to ijma. This is what Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala wrote to Qadi Shurey rahmatullahi alayh. And this Imam Sarqasi rahmatullah alayhi writes in Usul Sarqasi, the ijma is a firm legal obligation to knowledge at the same status as the divine text. So just as it is not allowed to leave acting upon the text due to an opinion which challenges it, then it is also not allowed to oppose the ijma due to an opinion that challenges it after the ijma has been concluded with its evidences. Now, the one thing I would like to now let us try to understand that what is the ruling regarding the one who rejects the ijma, because many people who are ignorant, like what is the ruling when how severe it is to reject an ijma. And before getting into that details, like I will just try to give you some examples so that you can understand that did ijma take place during the time of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Did ijma take place in the modern times? So that you can easily have a picture, how does ijma take place? If you just look at the first consensus, first ijma that occurred, it was the ijma of the companions of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, ijma of the Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with all of them. And what was that? It was on the necessity of appointing a Khalifa after the death of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Therefore, the Muhajirin and the Ansar met in the Saqifa of Banu Sa'ida for that purpose. Even before the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was buried. And then they agreed to appoint Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala. We can also take another example, is like the Sahaba were agreed completely in entirety. I mean, there was complete agreement of the Sahaba on fighting the apostates. Even though there was some initial objection on the part of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, Sayyidina Umar had a conversation with Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened the heart of Sayyidina Umar and caused him to feel ease with the decision of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, and all of the companions of the Prophet agreed on that. So there are two examples you can say that these were ijma of that time. If you look at in the latter part of the Ummah, another one of the famous ijma of the scholars was on the prohibition of building new churches in Muslim lands. This was consensus. Shaykh al-Islam, if you look at al-Furu wa Tasi al-Furu, they said that they are to be prevented from building new churches in Muslim lands. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayhi said there is ijma on this. Prohibition on building new churches in Muslim lands. Imam Mirdawi rahmatullah alayhi in Al-Insaf fi Ma'rifat al-Rajim al-Qilafi says that they are to be prevented from building new churches. And Shaykh Taqiyuddin Yani Allama ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayhi said that there was ijma on this. If you look at the modern examples, there is an ijma which was mentioned by Shaykh Bakr Abu Zaid in Hukm al-Tamsil, that it is the consensus of the Muslim scholar is that it is forbidden to play the role of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam or other prophets or messengers in movies and TV shows. And this was mentioned by Shaykh Bakr Abu Zaid. I mean, even those scholars who allowed acting with certain guidelines unanimously agreed that playing certain roles is prohibited in case of the prophets and messengers and the mothers of the believers, the wives are his descendants, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Now, these are some of the examples of ijma. Now, what I will do is we shall revise it, or we shall rework on this, the concept of ijma, through the understanding or the beneficial work of the Faqih of Hunayza, Shaykh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen, from his book, Al-Usul min al-Usul. What is the first thing? Shaykh asks, what is ijma? Shaykh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen, rahmahullah, says, in linguistic terms, ijma means resolve and agreement. In Sharia terms, ijma means the agreement of the mujtahids of the ummah. And this is what Imam Tirmidhi rahmatullah alayhi says. Ijma actually refers to the agreement of the scholars of fiqh, hadith, religion. Not every Tom, Dick and Harry. In Sharia terms, ijma means the agreement of the mujtahids of the ummah after the death of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam on a Sharia ruling. By saying agreement, we exclude difference of opinion. If there is a difference of opinion, even from one person, then we cannot say that there is ijma. What we will say? We will say the majority of the scholars say this. By saying the mujtahid, we exclude the common folk, common laymen, and those who follow or imitate scholar. It does not matter whether they agree or disagree. These are the words of Shaykh Uthaymeen rahmatullah alayhi, Shaykh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen. By saying this ummah, we exclude the conscience of others, which carries no weight. By saying after the death of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we exclude their agreement at the time of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because ijma or consensus at the time does not count as evidence, because evidence is established by the sunnah of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whether in word or deed by approval. Hence, if a sahabi says we used to do, or that they used to do such and such at the time of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this does not mean ijma. This is actually indicating the approval of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. By saying on Shari ruling, we exclude their agreement on a rational or human ruling, which has nothing to do with the matter under discussion, because we are talking about looking for ijma as one of the kinds of Shari evidence. Now, let us rephrase it. What does the definition mean? Ijma means the agreement, the ittifaq of the mujtahideen of this ummah after the death of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on a Shari ruling. This is basically ijma. Now, what are the evidences for the authority of ijma? We have studied Surah Nisa, then we have the hadith from Surah Tirmidhi, we have a hadith from Ibn Asim, Kitab al-Sunnah, we have Musnad Ahmad, then we have the letter of Sayyidina Amirul Mu'mineen Umar bin Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, which was sent to Qadi Shuraim, right? Then what are the types of ijma? Now, the one ijma is ijma qati, then one ijma is ijma zanni. Okay. Now, what are the conditions for ijma? Now, this is a very long list, and this is not the topic under discussion, and we are not in a fifth class, so we'll leave this topic. And I hope that this would be enough. So I end my talk here and my lecture on this point, and inshallah, we'll be discussing the verse number 10 tomorrow. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us tawfiq to implement upon the knowledge that we have gained. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us beneficial knowledge. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.